My husband's first love called to say he has kidney failure and needs a transplant. I contacted the hospital to withdraw treatment. His first love panicked. But he's your husband. I couldn't have cared less and started planning his funeral. She has no idea I've been reborn. In my past life, I signed the kidney donation papers without a second thought, only to discover it was for his cherished first love. After she recovered, she conspired with my husband to stage a car accident that killed me. When I opened my eyes again and her call came through, I promptly transferred it straight to the cemetery office. Seeing his beloved on the brink of death, her husband grew frantic. In the hospital corridor, the smell of disinfectant was sharp and chilling. I looked down at the kidney transplant consent form in my hands, my fingers tracing the thin paper as a torrent of emotions surged within me. Xiang Wei, what on earth are you waiting for? Song's mother stood across from me. Her tone laced with impatience and a subtle, aggressive edge. Qingqing can't hold on much longer. The doctor said he needs surgery immediately. Sign the papers now. I looked up at her face, so familiar, so detestable. The anxious expression she wore seemed genuinely concerned for Song Cheng's life, but I knew it was all an act. Because I had been reborn, memories from my past life flooded my mind, overwhelming my senses. In that past life, it was precisely because I listened to Mother Song's desperate pleas that I signed that consent form without hesitation and donated one of my kidneys. Back then, I loved Song Cheng with all my heart and even felt a certain gratitude towards my mother-in-law, believing she had worn herself out worrying for her son. But it wasn't until I lay weak in my hospital bed after donating my kidney, hearing the sounds of laughter and joy from the next room, that I finally discovered the truth. That kidney didn't save Song Cheng, it saved Liang Qiu, Song Cheng's unattainable crush. All of them, Song's mother, Song's father, even Song Cheng himself, had conspired to deceive me. The reason they favored Liang Qiu so much was because she could give them a grandson, while I, due to a miscarriage years ago, could no longer bear children. That day, I overheard my mother-in-law and old Song talking outside the hospital room. Liang Qiu really is a good girl, obedient and sensible. She'll be able to give our Song family a grandson one day. Mother Song's tone was dripping with unconcealed satisfaction. Not like Xiang Wei, she's utterly useless, can't even bear a child. She actually believed Qingqing had kidney failure and just went ahead and donated a kidney. But after all these years married into our Song family, we haven't mistreated her. She's held our Qingqing back for so long. Taking one of her kidneys is letting her off easy. Old man Song let out a cold laugh. Qingqing put on a convincing act this time, and Qiu is healthy now. Have Qingqing finalize the divorce paperwork quickly, before any more trouble starts. It was in that moment I saw their true colors, clear as day. I thought the kidney I donated was to save my husband, but it turned out to be the gift that brought Liang Qiu back to life. And after Liang Qiu recovered, not only was there not a shred of gratitude, but out of fear that I would claim a share of the family fortune, he conspired with Song Cheng to stage a car accident, personally sending me to my grave. At this thought, my gaze towards Song's mother turned several degrees colder, and a mocking smile curled at the corner of my lips. Seeing that I still hadn't signed, Song's mother raised her voice a notch. Qingqing is your husband, you can't possibly be thinking of abandoning him in his hour of need, can you? What am I even thinking? I murmured the words again, lowering my gaze to hide the coldness in my eyes. Mom, of course I'm thinking about how to save Qingqing. It's just that this whole situation is so sudden. I need some time to sort it all out. Mother Song clearly hadn't anticipated this reaction from me. Her eyes widened, and she seemed absolutely livid. What is there to figure out? Qingqing is dying. How can you possibly hesitate? I didn't answer. Instead, I stood up and placed the consent form back on the table. Mom, saving a life is a serious matter. Of course I wouldn't refuse, but I also have the right to know all the facts and confirm the necessity of the surgery. Song's mother was taken aback for a moment, then forced a smile onto her face. Wei, I know you're scared, but the doctor said Qingqing's condition is critical. You have to trust me. Once you sign, the surgery can go ahead, and he'll be healthy again. I stared at her coldly, neither nodding nor arguing. I'm going to see Song Cheng first. This time, I won't let them get away with it so easily. Outside the ICU, I stood on the cold floor, looking in through the glass window. Song Cheng lay on the hospital bed, his face pale and almost translucent, an oxygen tube at his nostrils, the heart monitor emitting a steady beep. A nurse carefully adjusted his drip rate, the entire room unnervingly quiet. If I hadn't been reborn, I would have truly believed he was on death's door. Vivi, look at how sick Qingqing is. What are you still hesitating for? Mother Song's voice came from behind, carrying the same familiar tone of reproach. The doctor just said the sooner we find a matching kidney donor, the better. Do you really want to wait until something terrible happens to him? I turned back to look at the two figures standing in the hallway. Mrs. Song wore a look of deep anxiety, while Mr. Song stood with his arms crossed. Impatience etched on his face. Ching Ching is your husband, Xiangwei, Mrs. Song repeated her stance once more, as if those very words carried enough weight to force me into submission. Mom, I know he's my husband. That's precisely why I need to understand his condition and make sure he's okay. That's what caring for someone means. Song's father snorted coldly. Ching Ching is already in this state. What more is there to confirm? Do you think the doctor is lying to you? The doctor isn't lying. People do. I lowered my head and murmured in a voice no one could hear, my gaze utterly devoid of warmth. Before speaking up with a smile, I just want to see his test results, to verify the diagnosis. Is that really too much to ask? Hearing this, Mother Song's face stiffened, then immediately took on a wounded expression. Wei Wei, what do you mean by that? Are you suggesting we're lying to you? I'm not doubting anyone, I just need some proof. I remained calm, pressing the point step by step. After all, this surgery concerns my own body. I have a right to know all the details. Your body. Hearing this, Mother Song could no longer contain her anger. Ching Ching is on the brink of death, and you're still thinking about yourself. Mom, I raised my voice, cutting off her reproach. Of course I'm worried about Song Ching too, but donating a kidney is a major decision. How could I possibly just sign off on it so casually? My sudden, firm stance left Song Ching's mother stunned and momentarily speechless. Seeing this, Song Ching's father furrowed his brow and spoke in a low, serious tone. Xiang Wei, don't forget, when you married into our Song family, you became Ching Ching's wife. This is your duty as his spouse. Duty. I let out a derisive snort, my gaze sweeping coldly over the two of them. What kind of duty is worth my life? Madame Song's face turned ashen with rage at my pointed retort. She was just about to speak when the sound of hurried footsteps approached. I looked up and saw Liang Qiu at the far end of the corridor. She was wearing a light-colored dress, holding a stack of documents. Her makeup was heavy, her expression anxious, and she seemed a bit unsteady on her feet, looking rather disheveled. In my past life, seeing her standing there perfectly healthy in front of me, I never had any doubts. Looking back now, it's full of holes. Auntie, Liang Qiu hurried over to us, her face etched with a pitiful, pleading expression. The doctor says Ching Ching's condition is getting worse, if we don't operate soon. As she spoke, she handed the documents in her hand to Mother Song, seemingly completely unaware of my presence. Mother Song took the papers, and her expression immediately grew even more grave. Xiang Wei, are you listening? Ching Ching really can't wait any longer. Liang Qiu looked up, as if only just noticing my presence. She was taken aback for a moment, then offered a stiff smile. Sister Wei, I know this is very difficult for you, but Ching Ching truly can't afford to wait any longer. I stared at her coldly, offering no reply. Mrs. Song thrust the document right in front of me. Xiang Wei, look at this quickly. It's the doctor's latest diagnosis. Ching Ching's condition has reached a critical stage. As she spoke, Mrs. Song tapped her finger on the document, her face a mask of unconcealed anxiety and reproach. I looked at the stack of documents but didn't take them immediately. Instead, I said calmly, if the condition is critical, then this diagnosis must be quite detailed. Right, so, specifically, which doctor issued the report? Did they sign it? Which indicators are abnormal, and by how much do they deviate from the normal range? As soon as the words left my mouth, the air seemed to freeze for a few seconds. What are you implying? Father Song frowned, his tone sharp. When has our Song family ever lied to you? Ching Ching's life is hanging by a thread, and you're still asking these pointless questions. This is not a pointless question. I looked up, my gaze calm yet piercing. I'm the one donating a kidney. This surgery is a matter of life and death for me. I have every right to verify every single detail. Liang Qiu stood to the side, having been thrust into this crisis while still unwell to deliver this fabricated report to me. She clearly hadn't anticipated my request, and a flicker of panic crossed her face, but she quickly regained her composure, putting on an innocent expression and saying softly, Sister Wei Wei, I know you're worried about your own health, but Ching Ching really can't wait any longer. As for these reports, the doctors have checked them over and over. Then I'll have to take a very close look. I gave a faint smile, reached out to take the document, and began to leaf through it. As I read through these so-called diagnostic reports, my expression grew increasingly scornful. While the content appeared professional on the surface, it was riddled with holes in the details. The report mentions Song Ching's end-stage renal disease, yet it includes no imaging studies, dialysis records, or even the most basic lab results, such a sloppy forgery. Do they really think I'm still that naive Xiang Wei from my past life? This information is clearly incomplete, no matter how you look at it. I set the document down and said in a flat tone, Ms. Liang, can you explain why this report doesn't even include a basic renal function panel? At those words, the color drained from Liang Qiu's face, her lips parted as if to offer a defense, but for a moment, no sound came out. Xiang Wei, Mrs. Song suddenly slammed her hand on the table, glaring at me with fury in her eyes. Qingqing is hanging by a thread, and you're here talking about these trivial matters. Do you have a heart of stone? My heart is not made of stone. I looked up and met her gaze directly, my voice low but clear. Precisely because Song Qing is my husband, I must ensure every step is flawless. Otherwise, if I risk my life, who will be responsible for me? You. Or this person who has nothing to do with our family yet is here. You. Song's mother was left speechless by my retort. Her face flushed crimson, and a trembling finger shot out to point at me. Xiang Wei, don't you want to save Qingqing? At her words, the other people in the hallway cast strange looks our way, and some even began to whisper among themselves. I listened to those hushed whispers, a cold sneer in my heart, but deliberately put on a helpless expression and let out a soft sigh. Mom, please don't get upset. I never once said I wouldn't save Qingqing. But this is my kidney we're talking about. Don't I have the right to understand everything clearly before making a decision? Seeing the situation had reached a deadlock, Liang Qiu quickly stepped forward, forcing a strained smile. Sister Weiwei, it must have been an oversight on my part. The original copies of these test results are still with the doctor. I'll go fetch them right now. Just give me a moment. With that, she hurried away. Head bowed, I watched her retreating figure, a cold sneer spreading within me. It seems she needs time to fabricate a more perfect report. After Liang Qiu's hasty departure, Mother Song glared at me resentfully, as if my earlier questioning was a grave sin. Meanwhile, Father Song sat to the side with a long face, heaving heavy sighs from time to time, looking utterly disappointed in me. Xiangwei, you've truly let us down. Song's mother finally couldn't hold back, her voice laced with deliberate hurt. Qingqing has always been so good to you. How can you be so cold and distant, like an outsider, at a time like this? Mom, that's not fair to say. I gave a faint smile and said calmly, how could I be an outsider? I'm Qingqing's wife. Otherwise, why would I be standing here listening to your accusations? My words left her speechless, her expression changed. But before she could retort, Liang Qiu returned, holding a stack of new documents. Sister Weiwei, these are the original documents just copied from the doctor's office. Liang Qiu handed me the documents, her eyes slightly red, as if deeply ashamed of her previous oversight. I'm so sorry, I was in too much of a hurry. I didn't mean to cause any misunderstanding. I took the file and opened it with deliberate slowness, a cold sneer forming in my heart. This report was indeed much more detailed. It now included imaging results and comprehensive lab data, complete with the attending physician's signature and official stamp. However, these documents still seemed full of holes to me. For instance, the pathological features of the kidneys on that CT scan don't match up with uremia at all. Is this acceptable now? Seeing me flip through the pages for a while without saying a word, Mrs. Song couldn't wait any longer and asked, yes, that's right, Sister Weiwei. Liang Qiu's tone was also cautious. You see, these reports are all very clear. Qingqing's condition is truly critical. I set the documents down, looked up at them, and a faint smile touched the corner of my mouth. If Qingqing's condition is truly that critical, then we should discontinue treatment. The moment I spoke, everyone fell silent instantly, as if even the air had frozen. What did you say, Mrs. Song's voice shot up an octave, her face a mask of thunderstruck disbelief. You're actually giving up on treatment? Yeah, let's stop the treatment. I said it lightly, even with a hint of relief in my voice. Qingqing is this sick now. Continuing treatment would just be a waste of money and energy, rather than burdening everyone. It's better to let him go in peace. Vivi, you're out of your mind. Song's father shot to his feet, a trembling finger pointed at me. How can you say such a thing? Qingqing is your husband. Of course I know he's my husband. My eyes turned cold, yet my voice remained calm. But I have the right to choose not to make that sacrifice. Besides, if there's truly no hope, then what I'm doing is actually for his own good. Mrs. Song's face flushed a deep crimson, so angry she was left speechless. She turned to Liang Qiu, her tone tinged with a note of pleading. Xiao Qiu, please talk some sense into Xiangwei. She's completely lost her mind. Liang Qiu looked up at me, a flicker of panic in her eyes. Clearly, she hadn't anticipated my sudden decision to withdraw treatment, a move that was definitely not part of her and the Song family's plan. Sister Weiwei, she said in a low voice, a slight tremble of emotion catching in her throat, Qingqing can still be saved. The doctor said his tissue type is a very close match to yours. If the surgery is performed in time, he can make a full recovery. I was just too anxious before. I might have made the situation sound more dire than it is. The truth is, there's still hope for Ching Ching now. The moment she finished speaking, I let out a cold laugh. Oh, there's still hope. Then there's even less reason to hurry. If the life can be saved anyway, why should I panic? Xiang Wei, Mother Song was furious, looking as if she wanted to lunge at me and demand an answer. But Father Song grabbed her arm and held her back. Ching Ching can be saved, but you refuse to help him, she said through gritted teeth, her eyes filled with disappointment and rage. Are you even human, Mom? Please, calm down. I stood up, casually straightening my sleeves. I just think that, rather than rushing into a decision, it would be better to give me some time. Let's wait until I'm in better health, after all. I don't want the surgery to fail and end up squandering your hopes for nothing, right? With that final remark, I turned and left the hospital room without a backward glance. The moment I stepped out of the room, I took a deep breath, a mocking smile curling at the corner of my mouth. Are they getting nervous? The real show is just beginning. Ching Ching can't wait any longer. Are you going to sign or not? Mother Song's sharp rebuke shattered the quiet of the hospital corridor. Standing by the bench, surrounded, I instantly became the target of everyone's criticism. Her voice was loud, drawing the gaze of many people nearby. The murmur of there. I stared at the two familiar faces before me. Their expressions were identical to those from my past life. Sister Weiwei, Liang Qiu suddenly approached from behind, her face pale and steps unsteady, her voice trembling as she spoke. Please, save Ching Ching. I know you hate me, but he is your husband, as she spoke. Her knees buckled, and she dropped to the floor with a heavy thud, her voice choked with emotion, trembling as tears dripped from her chin. Ching Ching is a good man. He was dragged into this because of me. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have gotten sick. You two were a happy couple, and I've wronged you. Now, I just beg for your mercy. The crowd buzzed with hushed whispers, as if a fuse had been lit. Oh my, who is this woman? Her husband is on death's door and she won't even save him. I heard her husband is gravely ill, just needs a kidney, and she actually refuses to donate. TSK, people these days, they really have no heart. I stood in place, my gaze sweeping over Liang Qiu, who was trembling on her knees on the floor. My face was expressionless, but inside, I was laughing. Liang Qiu's move is so predictable, trotting out that tired old guilt trip. Putting on a tearful performance in front of a crowd of strangers. Too bad for her. No matter how convincing the act, I won't be fooled again. In my past life, this is exactly how I was pressured into signing, she cried. She knelt, she was overwhelmed with gratitude, my heart softened, and I signed that kidney transplant agreement. Little did I know the kidney wasn't for Song Ching, but for her. And then, her whole family had the nerve to say I was being unreasonable. That I couldn't bear children, and that Liang Qiu was the heroine, the rightful wife who could carry on the Song family line. In the end, I didn't even leave a note before lying down on the cold operating table. This time, don't even think about it. I smiled and bent down, as if to help Liang Qiu up. A triumphant gleam flashed in her eyes, but the next second, I leaned in and whispered in her ear, cut the act, or you'll break your leg. I straightened up, looked at the people around me, and spoke in a gentle tone laced with venom. You're right, I am his wife, so I have to be more responsible and rational, don't I? This concerns my own body. I can't just make a decision lightly, can I? Mother Song frowned and stared at me warily. What do you want? I spoke slowly, my voice quiet yet crystal clear. I can donate a kidney, but I have a condition. Old man Song narrowed his eyes. What is it? All assets under Song Cheng's name, be it bank deposits, real estate, stocks, or even that car registered to him, must be transferred to me, I said with a smile, as if discussing an ordinary business deal. I'm offering my life. He's offering his money. That's a fair trade, isn't it? As soon as these words were spoken, the room erupted in an uproar. You're out of your mind, Madame Song roared in fury. This is nothing but daylight robbery. I slowly turned my head to look at her. Then don't count on me to save him, you have no heart, she shouted. But my life is valuable, I shrugged. Liang Qiu's face was deathly pale. He remained kneeling, not daring to look up, his eyes darting nervously. She knew that once the assets were transferred, I would never listen to them again. They were all afraid I'd turn on them once I had the power to decide. They knew I was no longer that obedient, weak, and easily placated good daughter-in-law. I can give you time to think it over, I said calmly, but you need to hurry. After all, you said Song Cheng's life is hanging by a thread. Mrs. Song's face instantly turned ashen, her mouth opened, but no words came out. Mr. Song took her by the arm and said in a low voice, "Let's not argue, let Ching rest, we can talk outside." They're afraid of making a scene and causing a bad impression. I don't care if people are watching for a laugh, this time I'm determined to make them all drop the act and trample their hypocrisy into the mud. I followed them into the adjacent reception room. Mrs. Song was so furious she pointed her finger right at my face and started yelling, "So it's money you want? Just name your price. Don't bring up the assets. Ching has his company, his cars, his properties. That's his life's work." I glanced at her and laughed, as if I'd just heard a joke. If you call that his life's work, then what was my life worth? I gave up a kidney, and now I'm supposed to go back to slaving away for Leon Chiu with him, Old Man Song said with a dark expression. "We can't touch Ching's money. He's still young and needs to start his own business. If you need money, we can give you a separate amount." "I don't want money," I cut him off, my voice soft but deliberate, enunciating every word. "The house, the cars, the shares, the savings. All of it must be transferred to my name. Didn't you say he's dying? What's the point of holding on to these things? We need to discuss this." Mr. Song finally spoke up, his tone settling into something more measured. "But these things take time, lawyers, notarization, transfer agreements. It can't possibly move as fast as you're suggesting." I stared at his old fox face, knowing full well he was stalling. He was trying to run down the clock until Leon Chiu's kidneys couldn't wait any longer, forcing me to cave in and sign. I know this game. "Then let's call the lawyer right now." I took my phone out of my bag and dialed a number. "Hello, Attorney Zhao. I need you to handle a property transfer for me." "Yes, it's urgent. It requires 3-party signatures, and we need it notarized today if possible." Mr. Song's face instantly darkened, and Mrs. Song was so frantic she was practically hopping. "You're out of your mind. How could you possibly?" "So, are you going to save your son now, or are you going to keep playing word games with me?" I said calmly. "He's on the brink of death, and you're still clinging to your money." As soon as these words were spoken, even Leon Chiu couldn't hold her ground. She rushed in from outside, clutching her stomach, looking so frail she might faint at any moment. Wei, I know I've wronged you, but can you please not do this? I'll give you whatever you want. Just save Ching. He's innocent." I narrowed my eyes at her. "Are you getting ahead of yourself? I haven't actually agreed to save anyone yet. I only said under certain conditions. Don't start your performance too early. If you're not comfortable, we can sign an agreement. I'll donate the kidney as soon as what I want is transferred to my account." Her face changed. This is non-negotiable." I stood up slowly and held out my phone. "Whether we proceed with the formalities is entirely up to you." They exchanged uneasy glances, yet not one of them could bring themselves to refuse. In the notary office, sunlight streamed through the slats of the blinds, falling upon the few thick documents on the desk as if cloaking them in a holy light. "This light cannot reach the heart. This is the property transfer agreement," the lawyer explained while turning the pages. "Upon signing and notarization, 3 properties, 1 car, and 20% of the shares under Mr. Song's name will be transferred to Ms. Xiong. Additionally, the detailed bank account balances will be transferred within 1 business day." Song Ching slumped in the chair, his face sallow and his lips pale. But it wasn't illness, it was rage. He was still wearing that hospital gown, maintaining the charade of a critically ill man, as if he might keel over at any second. Mother Song's eyes were already rimmed with red as she glared at the contract and berated me. "Xiang Wei, you're truly despicable. Taking advantage of our misfortune to seize the family assets. Doesn't your conscience ache?" I responded with an elegant smile. "Sign it," Old Man Song said through gritted teeth, his voice low. "Dad," Song Ching finally spoke up, his voice hoarse. "All of this, I built it from the ground up. Do you want to live or not?" Old Man Song shot him a sidelong glance, his eyes discreetly shifting towards Leon Chiu standing nearby. I knew she was carrying Song Cheng's child. Their plan was probably to wait until after I donated my kidney, then finish me off just like in my last life. With Song Cheng as the primary heir to my estate, they could all live happily ever after as one big, happy family. Song Cheng gritted his teeth, his hand trembling as he picked up the pen. Snap! As he finished the final stroke, his hand went slack, and the pen rolled across the desk. "Is that it?" I asked the lawyer. The lawyer nodded and said, "The contract is signed. We can stamp and file it in a moment." "Okay." I stood up, straightened my collar, and turned to face the Song family. "Then I won't overstay my welcome. I still need to get a checkup, so let's call it a day for now." "But you said you were here to save him, Mrs. Song exploded. "You think you can just sign and walk away?" I looked up slowly. "Weren't you the ones in a hurry to save someone? But no one's even checked if I'm okay. What if I go into kidney failure too?" Mother Song was hopping mad. Songqing cleared his throat, holding his arm, and looked at me. What is it you actually want? I turned and walked toward the door, pausing for one last look back. If you want this to go smoothly, follow the rules. My body isn't ready, so I won't donate. I'm in no hurry. And you shouldn't be either. I returned to my apartment, changed out of the long coat I'd worn all day at the hospital, sat down on the sofa, and opened a box of egg tarts. With the first bite, flakes of the buttery pastry crumbled at the corners of my mouth, and the sweet, caramelized aroma instantly filled the air, a long-lost sense of peace. I had just woken up the next day when I heard a knock at the door. How are you feeling today? Is anything wrong? I glanced at Mother Song standing outside the door. Not too bad, just didn't get much sleep last night. Mother Song quickly nodded and held up what she was carrying. I made you some nourishing soup, with lily bulbs and snow fungus. It's good for the lungs and kidneys. I raised an eyebrow. I thought you didn't believe in all this health supplement stuff. She gave an awkward laugh. Well, it's just that you're the most precious thing in our family now. We can't afford to be careless. Mr. Song was holding several bags of health products. He deliberately walked around me to neatly arrange his shoes by the door. Vivi, dear. This is some nutritional supplement my friend managed to get for you. They say it's good for preparing your body before the surgery. He rubbed his hands together, a broad, ingratiating smile plastered on his face. Sitting on the sofa, I took a slow sip of tea, watching these two people, who had once looked right through me as if I were invisible, now fawning and falling over themselves to please me. I couldn't help but find it both bitterly ironic and darkly amusing. Mrs. Song hurried into the kitchen to busy herself, the sound of chopping vegetables starting up without a moment's pause. Your dad is making shrimp wonton soup for dinner, the kind you love. It's light and nourishing. I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup later, and we can ask the doctor how you're doing. Mr. Song said quietly. I leaned back gently on the sofa, my gaze sweeping over them with a detached air. Don't go to too much trouble. I'm in poor health and need time to recuperate. There's no use rushing things. Mrs. Song nodded eagerly. Yes, your health is the most important thing. We'll do whatever you say. Mrs. Song was about to say something more when the phone rang. Her expression changed the moment she answered it. What? How did she end up in the hospital all of a sudden? After hanging up the phone, she was so frantic she started stamping her feet. It's Liang Qiu. She suddenly collapsed and was taken to the hospital. They said her condition took a turn for the worse, and she's already in the emergency room. Oh, I raised an eyebrow slightly. Wasn't she perfectly fine just the other day? How did she collapse so suddenly? Mrs. Song's face turned pale, and she was momentarily speechless. I know Songqing isn't sick at all. I stated the truth bluntly, my voice neither loud nor soft, yet it cut like a sharp knife. The one who's really sick is Liang Qiu. You're coveting the grandson she could give you. And since my kidney is a match for hers, you've orchestrated this whole elaborate scheme to get it from me. As for that medical report she provided earlier, it was forged. A heavy silence fell over the room. What? Mother Song's voice trembled. You all knew she could bear children, I said flatly. You helped her put on this act to swindle a kidney out of me, then use the child she bears to secure the Song family line, didn't you? Mother Song stared wide-eyed, not daring to speak. I looked at her and said, word by deliberate word, you're not afraid I'll die. You're afraid I won't. I have the contract, the transfer agreement, and proof of your lies right here. If you try any more tricks, I won't hesitate to show the world the true face of the Song family. Song's mother and father sat there in a daze, utterly speechless. Liang Qiu's condition had finally deteriorated beyond delay. The hospital issued a critical condition notice. Songqing dropped all pretense. Kneeling before me on the verge of a breakdown, Wei, I'm begging you, please save Xiaoqiu. His voice trembled, his eyes bloodshot. I looked down at this man, the one I had once loved so deeply, the one I would have given anything for, even a kidney to save his life, who in turn had only ever wanted mine, and now, for that woman, he was on his knees, begging me. She can't die, Wei, she just can't. He wept like a child, his nails scraping the ground, his voice hoarse. She didn't do anything wrong, she just happened to be a little more important than me, right? I cut him off coldly. Songqing froze, as if hearing me speak for the first time, then his expression abruptly darkened. He stood up, pulled out a piece of paper, and lunged to grab me. Xiang Wei, you signed the agreement back then, have you forgotten? You took everything I had, you will donate that kidney, whether you like it or not. If you don't, I'll take you to court. You'll pay for this. I let out a soft sigh, as if finally weary of this whole farce. Songqing, I said you were a fool, and you really are. Take a good look at the name on that paper. I said I'd donate to you, Songqing, not to Liang Qiu. If you were really sick, I'd donate to you in a heartbeat. Can you not read? He choked up, but still refused to give up. Whoever needs it, it's to save a life. Can you really stand by and watch her die? I stood up, pulled a photocopy from the folder, and slapped it down in front of him. This is the evidence of you conspiring with the hospital doctors and nurses, faking an illness to trick me out of my kidney, along with the recording I have of you and your parents. It all proves your fraudulent medical case and your scheme to obtain an organ. The color drained from his face inch by inch, his lips trembling too much to form a single coherent word. Not only will I have you leave with nothing. I looked down at him and said, I will also ruin your reputation. I pulled out another document and tossed it into his lap. A divorce agreement. Sign it, or I'll go to court and expose the fake medical records and organ fraud. What do you think you have left to protect now? Do you want to divorce me and start a new life with our parents, or go to jail? I wonder if you even have any assets left to pay the fines. He finally broke down completely, collapsing to the floor as if all his strength had been drained. You had this all planned out, didn't you? I let out a scornful laugh. Sign this agreement and get out now, unless you want to go to jail. He stared at the cold, impersonal words on the paper, his lips trembling. Xiang Wei, how could you be so heartless? Heartless. I let out a laugh, but my eyes stung. When you pushed me into that operating room, did you ever stop to think about how much it would hurt? My parents' hair turned white with worry for me. Did anyone ever tell them it was because their daughter loved the wrong man? Songqing, I loved you once, but that doesn't mean I have to grovel in the dirt forever. You say she can't die, so does that mean I'm the one who should? My voice trembled, my chest tightened, and I fought desperately to hold back the tears. What you want is my organs, my understanding, my endless concessions. But you don't deserve any of it. I shoved the divorce papers into his hand, my tone resolute. I can't save her, but I can save you, Songqing. I'm saving you from this marriage you've long grown tired of. Sign it, and get out of my life. Song Cheng's fingers trembled, his gaze fixed on me, brimming with resentment. I pointed to the camera in the room, extinguishing any thought of reckless action on his part. He seemed on the verge of saying something, but in the end, he remained silent, simply signing his name without a word. I rose slowly to my feet, brushed off my clothes. As if stepping away from a farce, he knelt there, motionless. Liang Qiu didn't make it in the end. She passed away quietly, without any earth-shattering cries, nor the kind of tender, final glance at Songqing that he had imagined. On the contrary, as a nurse quietly revealed, the name she murmured on her deathbed wasn't Songqing's, but that of another wealthy man she had parted ways with years earlier. Her last cry was a Rong, not a Qing. The nurse added with a sigh, it's only at death's door that a person reveals the truest name in their heart. Hearing this, I felt only a hollow sense of melancholy, utterly unmoved. In the end, both she and Songqing were living in a script of their own making, never once treating me as a real person. Liang Qiu's funeral was a desolate, lonely affair. The Song family was in no position to help, and Songqing had no money to give her a proper send-off. One day, passing by the subway station, I saw a familiar figure huddled in a corner. Because I had been reborn, the true self. How did it come to this? We were once so brilliant. I didn't approach, nor did I make a sound. It's not that I'm heartless. They chose this path themselves, and I, at last, have broken free from this drawn-out nightmare. I sold the house I co-owned with Songqing and used the proceeds to open a small bookshop. The room is filled with the scent of books, gardenias, and tea plants grow by the window. There's morning sun and evening breezes. Everything has slowed down. A friend asked me, don't you hate him, after the way he treated you? I shook my head gently. Hate is a waste of time. My life now is far more satisfying than any revenge could ever be. I started working out, learning floral design, occasionally writing pieces to submit to magazines, and taking in stray cats. The world is still imperfect, but I've learned not to waste my passion on the wrong people. Sunlight streams through the window. I lift a cup of hot tea, its warmth and fragrant aroma greeting my face. True victory isn't making them beg for your forgiveness and tears, nor is it seeing them suffer divine retribution. It's your ability to turn away with grace, leaving their hurt behind, and embracing a new life that is entirely your own. Story 2. My fiancé was a scientific genius, yet he wanted to work on an assembly line for the sake of his white moonlight. I persuaded him with great effort and managed to get him into a national-level laboratory. Later, he achieved remarkable success. We gained both fame and fortune, and were about to have the wedding of the century. But on the day his white moonlight was diagnosed with cancer, he pulled the plug on my ventilator. It's all your fault. I would have married Ying by now if it weren't for you. If I had gone to work at the factory with her, her medical bills would have been covered. When I opened my eyes again, I had gone back to the day he received the job offer. Beaming with happiness, he waved the factory acceptance letter in his hand. Wan, look, I'll be able to provide for Ying from now on. Hello everyone. And welcome to Whispering Twilight. Wan, look, I can take care of Ying now. Luja excitedly waved the factory acceptance letter in his hand, his handsome face beaming with irrepressible joy. That flimsy piece of paper seemed like a priceless treasure in his eyes. As I looked at him, in a daze, it was as if I had been transported back to my deathbed. In the frigid hospital room, the ventilator emitted a rhythmic sound. It was the same face, yet contorted with searing hatred. Prying my fingers from the bed rail one by one. This is all your fault. I would have married Ying long ago if not for you. If I go work at the factory with her, we'll have the money for her medical bills. He pulled the plug on my ventilator. Just before the agony of suffocation consumed me, I saw him turn and run down the hall toward another person. It was Channing, the one he'd always pined for. Seeing that I didn't react, Luja's smile faded a little. He carefully folded the job offer letter and placed it in his chest pocket. Treating it like a priceless treasure. Wan, why aren't you saying anything? Aren't you happy for me? Ying's health isn't good. This factory offers the best benefits in the area, and they promised to pay the full social security package. Once I'm settled, I'll bring her over. Then I can take care of her for the rest of my life. In my past life, hearing those words felt like a knife twisting in my heart. I confronted him, asking, what about me? What about our future? I begged him through tears not to abandon his research dreams and our years of shared history for the sake of some vague, elusive notion of taking care of someone. He called me selfish, said I didn't understand his love. Ridiculous. I pulled myself from my thoughts, looked at his expectant eyes, and gave a soft laugh. Oh, well, congratulations to you then. Luja was stunned. He probably thought I would, like before, try to persuade him with earnest words, or even plan everything out for him. The astonishment in his eyes vanished in an instant, quickly replaced by delight. Wan, you've really come around. I knew you were the best. He was as happy as a child and immediately tried to hug me. I deftly sidestepped without a word. He missed, looking a bit awkward. Wan, a delicate, almost frail voice called from outside the door. Have you finished talking with Wan? Yeah. Channing peeked out from behind the door, half her face visible as she looked at me timidly, her eyes holding a flicker of unease and defiance. Luja immediately forgot about me, turning to go to her, his tone softer than I had ever heard it before. Ying, what are you doing here? It's windy outside. I'm worried Sister Wan won't agree. Channing bit her lip, her eyes reddening. If she's upset, maybe we should just forget it. Your dream is more important. Don't talk nonsense. Luja frowned with concern. Your health is more important than anything. Wan has already agreed. She fully supports us. As he spoke, he proudly pulled the letter of appointment from inside his coat and pressed it into Chen Ying's hand. You keep this. It's our security for the future. Chen Ying's tears turned to a smile as she carefully caressed the paper. She looked up at me, her expression beaming with triumph. Thank you, Wan. Yeah. I watched them with a blank expression. Perfect. In this life, I'll step aside for you. May you be stuck together forever in that factory. Classmate Sue, are you absolutely certain about this? On the other end of the line, Professor Wang, the head of the national level laboratory, spoke with profound regret in his tone. A talent like Luja would be a tremendous loss to the nation's scientific research community if he were to end up working on an assembly line. In my past life, when this joint offer letter arrived, I was even more thrilled than Luja himself. To get him into that lab, I leveraged every connection my mentor had, even putting my own research achievements under his name, all just to give him a weighty enough ticket in. What Professor Wang valued was never Luja himself, but that genius resume, the one I spearheaded, yet bore his name. I am the one who truly embodies this offer. He is merely an accessory to me, Professor Wang. I said calmly, I've made my decision. I am personally willing to accept this offer. As for Luja, he has his own life plans. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. All right, if you insist, Professor Wang sighed. The lab's door is always open for you. I'll have HR send you a separate offer letter right away. Thank you. After hanging up, I deleted all the photos of Luja and me from my phone. A full decade, from undergrad to grad school. My entire world revolved around him. I was content to be his shadow, paving his way and clearing every obstacle for him. I thought that was love. It wasn't until the moment before my death that I understood. This is what they call foolishness. Soon after, a new email arrived on my phone. Admission notice, National Key Project Laboratory. In the recipient field, there was only my name, Sue Wan. I was just looking when Luja's call came through. I hung up immediately. He was relentless. calling over and over again. I got annoyed and blocked him. Not long after, there was a knock at the dorm room door. Chen Ying's voice came from outside the door, choked with tears. Wan, open the door. Are you mad at Asia? He didn't mean to miss your call. We were just looking at a rental place, trying to move out sooner so we wouldn't be a bother. Please don't blame him. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let him give up his dreams for me. She cried as she recounted all the things Lucia had sacrificed for her, as if I was the one who forced Lucia to go work at the factory. I opened the door. Janine clearly hadn't expected me to be so direct. Her sobs caught in her throat, and she froze on the spot. Behind her, Lucia was looking at me with an expression of utter impatience. Suwan, are you quite finished? Is it really necessary to block me over a missed text? He took it for granted that I was still sulking over his overly close relationship with Chening. In the past, I would have, but this time, I just looked at him calmly. We've already broken up. I'm not being unreasonable. Break up. Lucia acted as if he had just heard the most ridiculous joke. Suwan, are you threatening me with a breakup? He let out a derisive snort, a familiar glint of contempt and disdain in his eyes. Stop kidding yourself. You know I can't manage without you. Who else organizes all my experimental data and drafts my papers? Without me, you'd struggle to even graduate. He was certain I didn't have the nerve to leave him, just like in my past life. No matter how ambiguously he carried on with Chening, I would obediently return to his side with just a word from him. Chening chimed in as well, taking my hand with a look of sincerity on her face. Sis Wan, don't say things in anger. Asia's talent needs you, and you need Asia's protection too. You two are a match made in heaven. How can you talk about breaking up? I shook her hand off. Who says I can't live without him? I turned back to the desk, picked up the freshly printed offer letter, and slammed it down in front of Lucia. See it clearly, this time, I'm the one leaving you. Lucia's gaze fell upon the paper. National Key Project Laboratory Offer of Employment. This letter serves to formally offer employment to MS. Suwan, his pupils constricted sharply. What? What's going on? Where's my name? His head snapped up, his eyes locked onto me, filled with utter shock and disbelief. Suwan, what have you done? I've merely taken back what was rightfully mine. I looked at him, enunciating every single word. From the very beginning, this lab only ever wanted to hire me. You're just the trash I happened to take out with me. You. Lucia's face instantly flushed a deep, purplish red. He probably never imagined that someone as docile as me would say something like that. Janine was also stunned, stammering as she spoke. Sis Wan, how could you say that about Az? He's so talented. Talented, I laughed. Is his talent erasing my name from the paper we co-authored? So he just casually passes off my research as his own spontaneous inspiration. Lucia's face instantly drained of all color. He pulled it all off flawlessly, thinking I'd never find out. He thought I was just a fool he could push around. Suwan, his voice trembled, you can't do this to me. We're one and the same. My success is your success. We're about to get married. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours. He began to play the emotional card, but having lived through a lifetime already, my heart had long since turned to cold, hard iron. Save your excuses, Lucia. From now on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. Aren't you off to the factory to provide for your precious Ying? Go on, then, don't bother me again. Lucia, it's over between us. My words left Lucia utterly speechless. His face turned ashen, then deathly pale, as if he'd been stripped naked in public. With every last bit of his wretchedness exposed to the harsh light of day, he probably never imagined, not in a million years, that I would ever speak to him like this. Suwan, flushed with anger, his voice suddenly rose sharply. Do you really think I can't get into that lab without you? Don't forget, I'm the one Professor Wang values most. I'll call him right now and tell him this is all a misunderstanding. He pulled out his phone, his fingers trembling as he went to dial. I watched him quietly, as if watching a clown. The call connected. Lucia immediately adopted a tone that was both humble and confident. Hello, Professor Wang, this is Lucia. Regarding the offer. I think there might have been some misunderstanding. Something was said on the other end of the line. Lucia's expression shifted from confidence, to shock, to panic, and finally settled into a look of utter devastation. No, it can't be, he muttered to himself, the phone slipping from his hand and clattering to the floor. Professor Wang said. He said that after a re-evaluation, they believe my abilities are insufficient for the work in the lab. He jerked his head up. His bloodshot eyes fixed on me with an intense stare. It was you said something to Professor Wang, didn't you, you vicious woman, to get back at me. You'd actually ruin my future. Chening snapped out of it too and lunged at me, trying to grab my hair, but I sidestepped and dodged her. Suwan, how could you be so cruel? Asia's dream was always scientific research, and now you've destroyed everything for him. He just wanted to work at the factory to earn money for my treatment. What did he do wrong? She wept pitifully, as if I were the one who had committed some unforgivable sin. I looked at the two of them and suddenly felt it was all utterly ridiculous. My future. I closed in on Lucia step by step, my gaze as cold as ice. Lucia, do you even have something like a future? He was forced to retreat step by step under the pressure of my presence. You, what do you mean? I laughed. Laughed until tears welled up in my eyes. Who was it that stayed up for 3 months straight to write the core algorithm for Project Stardust? Who was it that dug through piles of scrap paper to find the key data for the theoretical breakthrough in quantum entanglement? Who was it that helped you with your nationally gold-awarded thesis? From the topic selection and data models down to every single character, with every question I asked, Lucia's face grew paler. By the end, he was deathly pale, his lips trembling. Unable to utter a single word, Janine was also stunned, looking at us in disbelief, gazing into Lucia's terrified eyes. I slowly revealed the secret I had buried for 2 lifetimes. Lucia, you are no research prodigy, you're just a thief who stole my work and then stood in the spotlight, basking in the applause. And I, Suwan, am the true genius whose life you stole. The air seemed to freeze. Lucia and Janine wore identical expressions of stunned disbelief. No, you're lying. Lucia was the first to snap out of it, his voice shrill with denial. I did all of that. It's you, Suwan. You're jealous of my talent, so you're trying to frame me. Exactly, Sis Wanwan. How could you say that? Janine chimed in. You know perfectly well how Latest stays in the lab every night. We've all seen how hard he works. Hard work. I let out a cold laugh. He certainly is. Diligent. He would rush to be the first one to cross my name off the lab notebook and replace it with his own. The moment I finished an experiment, he would scramble to cobble together an article of his own using my data and conclusions. Just before my paper was published, he would work hard to play the part of the perfect, brilliant student who doted on his girlfriend, putting on a show for all the professors and classmates. See it with your own eyes. I looked at Channing. What you saw was him sitting across from me, drinking the coffee I bought, perfectly content to wait for me to hand over the data. All you saw was his smooth talk during the defense, but you never knew that I was the one who pulled 3 all-nighters to finish that presentation. What you see has always been exactly what I wanted you to see. Lucia was left speechless by my words and could only retort with, you're slandering me. I couldn't be bothered to waste any more words on them. I pulled a thick notebook from the very bottom shelf. This is my research journal from freshman year. It contains all my sources of inspiration, experimental procedures, and raw data. Lucia, do you have the nerve to compare your so-called achievements point by point with the records in here? Lucia's eyes fell upon the notebook as if he'd seen a ghost, his face instantly draining of all color. Of course he wouldn't dare, because all of his talent came from this notebook. He thought I'd thrown it away long ago. Channing looked at me, then at Lucia, whose face had gone ashen, and seemed to understand, yet she still chose to stand by Lucia's side. Even if you helped Asia a little, Wan, that's between you two as a couple. Bringing it up now. Aren't you deliberately trying to ruin him? You can't have him, so you want to destroy him. How vicious. This god-tier logic leaves me utterly speechless. Looking at this inseparable pair of scumbags, I suddenly felt a profound sense of emptiness. Get out. I pointed at the door and spat out a single word. Take your little thief and get the hell out of my life. Lucia seemed to have all the strength drained from him, and was half supported, half dragged away by Channing. Before leaving, he turned back, his eyes filled with venomous hatred. Suwan, just you wait, you'll regret this. Regret? My only regret is not seeing his true nature sooner. After they left, I carefully packed that notebook, along with all my research materials, into the suitcase. There's nothing left for me here. The next day, I boarded the train to the new city alone, dragging my suitcase behind me. National Laboratory, here I come. This time, I will reclaim all the glory for myself. Life in the lab was more pure, and more brutal, than I had imagined. This place gathered the nation's sharpest minds, each person operating like a high-speed, precision instrument. The project I joined was Project Celestial Dome, a national-level key initiative in spatial information technology, renowned for its extreme difficulty. My direct supervisor was the team's notorious workaholic, Li Wei. In his early 30s, he wore black-rimmed glasses, was stern and unsmiling, and his gaze held an undisguised scrutiny and skepticism towards me. So, you're Suwan. He adjusted his glasses and tossed a thick stack of documents onto my desk, the one who took Lucia's spot. It seems the news about Lucia being sent back has already made the rounds. I didn't explain, I just nodded. This is the current bottleneck in the project. The issue of signal attenuation and ultra-long-range transmission for the Starlink system. There was a hint of provocation in Li Wei's tone. Our team has been trying to crack this problem for 3 months with zero progress. Take a look. I need your preliminary solution within a week. This is a show of force. The gazes of the other colleagues in the office also turned in unison, filled with the anticipation of watching a spectacle. What real skill could a connected hire who used connections to push out her genius boyfriend possibly have? I picked up the documents and replied calmly, all right, in my past life, this very problem had also plagued the lab for a long time. Back then, Lucia, as a member of the project team, was at his wit's end and utterly helpless. It was me, while helping him organize materials. I found inspiration in an obscure foreign paper and proposed a brand new algorithmic model. Later, with this model, Lucia made a name for himself overnight, cementing his reputation as a genius, and I remain the nameless one, hidden in his shadow. This time, Lucia is not here. I will place this glory upon my own head, with my own hands. I locked myself in the archives for 3 days and 3 nights. When I was hungry, I'd take a few bites of bread. When I was tired, I'd just rest my head on the desk for a short while. My mind, like a supercomputer that had been dormant for ages and was suddenly rebooted, was racing at a frantic pace. All the talent and inspiration I had once deliberately suppressed and hidden away came flooding out. Like a torrent breaching a dam, I no longer had to worry about sparing Lucia's fragile ego. I no longer had to disguise my ideas as casual suggestions. I could roam freely and without restraint through the ocean of knowledge. It was an exhilarating feeling, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. On the morning of the 4th day, I knocked on Levi's office door, a complete solution in hand. He frowned, taking in my bloodshot eyes and disheveled hair. Giving up so soon? I didn't say a word, simply placing the report in my hands on the desk before him. Regarding the signal attenuation issue, I proposed 3 solutions. The optimal one involves establishing a dynamic compensation model using bidirectional beamforming, which theoretically could reduce signal loss by over 90%. Levi's expression shifted from disdain to shock, and finally to utter disbelief. He picked up the report, flipping through the pages one by one. His pace quickened, and his breathing grew increasingly ragged. In the office, the only sound was the rustling of paper. After a long moment, he suddenly looked up. Behind his glasses, his eyes shone with an almost fanatical light. How on earth did you come up with that? This model, it's pure genius. At that moment, the entire office fell completely silent. All eyes in the room were fixed on me, with shock, with curiosity, and with a touch of newfound reverence. Levi's approval was like a key, unlocking my standing in the lab. He no longer gave me the cold shoulder. Instead, he began treating me as a key protégé, entrusting me with the project's most critical data and responsibilities. The attitude of my colleagues shifted from that of spectators to that of seekers of advice. Su-Wan, could you take a look at this data model for me? Xiao-Su, that algorithm idea you had last time was brilliant. Could you walk me through it? I didn't hold anything back. In the world of academia, it's through exchange and collision of ideas that more sparks of innovation are ignited. I've gradually adapted to this high-intensity, high-density research life, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Here, there's no office politics, no romantic entanglements. The only standard is competence, and I, through my proven ability, have earned everyone's respect. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I still think of Lucia. I wonder if his life in the factory with his white moonlight is as sweet as they imagined it would be. The answer came soon enough. A month later, I got a call from my college roommate. My roommate's tone was dripping with schadenfreude. Wan, guess who I just saw? Lucia and Chening. Looks like they both got fired from the factory. I was a bit taken aback. What happened? I heard Lucia got distracted while operating the machinery, caused a pretty significant production mishap, and shut down the whole assembly line. The factory thought he was all talk and no action, so they let him go. What about Chening? Chenying's story is even more ridiculous. She complained the workshop was too dusty and smelled awful, so she quit in less than a week. She just lazed around their rental all day, expecting Lucia to support her. Then, the moment he got fired, they had a huge blow-up over the rent and utility bills. My roommate launched into a vivid description. When I saw them, they were in the middle of the street, pulling at each other and having a huge row. Chening was yelling at Lucia for being useless, and he was shouting back that she was nothing but a burden. TSK, what a scene. After hanging up the phone, I didn't feel the sense of satisfaction I had expected. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. All of this was exactly as I had anticipated. Someone like Lucia, with his pride and arrogance and having never faced real hardship. How could he ever adapt to the monotonous, soul-crushing life of a factory assembly line? His so-called entering the factory for love was nothing but impulsive bravado. When romantic fantasies are shattered by the mundane drudgery of reality, so-called love becomes a joke. Sometime later, I heard an even more explosive piece of news about them. In a bid to prove he wasn't a good-for-nothing, Luja had the wild idea of starting his own business. He somehow scraped together some money, rented a small workshop, and decided to try his hand at research. He attempted to replicate the studies I had once conducted. The outcome was predictable. Without my brain, he couldn't even build the most basic data model. In less than 2 months, that money went down the drain, and he was left saddled with debt. And Channing, upon learning he was bankrupt and in debt, packed up and left without a word. In the end, even the so-called white moonlight is no match for reality. I thought my story with them was supposed to end right there, until that day. At the entrance of the lab, I saw someone I never expected. It was Luja. He had grown thin and tanned, the spirited confidence of the past completely gone, replaced by a face full of dejection and weariness. When he saw me, a light instantly sparked in his eyes. He rushed forward a few steps and grabbed my arm. Wan. His voice carried a faint tremor and a note of pleading. Wan, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please let me come back. Let me return to the lab. I'll be your assistant. I'll do anything. I can't live without my research. I can't live without you. I looked at Luja. His once crisp shirt was now crumpled and creased, with an unknown stain smudged on the collar. His greasy hair clung to his forehead, and his sunken eyes were bloodshot. Was this still the radiant campus heartthrob he used to be? I pulled my arm free from his grasp, took a step back, and put some distance between us. Luja, you're not welcome here. My voice was ice cold, devoid of any warmth. Please, Wan. With a heavy thud, he actually knelt down right then and there, in front of everyone coming and going in the lab. I know I was wrong. I really do. Channing lied to me. She never loved me. She only loved my money and my reputation. It's only you, Wan. You're the only one who's ever truly cared for me. Can we start over? Let's go back to how things were. We'll work on our research together. Win the top awards, get married, he rambled on, his words a tangled, incoherent stream of remorse. Colleagues had already stopped and were pointing at us. I just felt a wave of disgust. Was I truly good to him? Yes, I was good to him. So good I ended up risking my own life for him. Luja, I cut him off. Do you still remember Channing? He was taken aback for a moment, then a look of disgust spread across his face. Don't mention that woman to me. She abandoned me when I was at my lowest. She's nothing but a gold digger. Is that so? I chuckled softly. But didn't you say back then that you were going to work in the factory and provide for her for the rest of her life? Luja's face flushed a deep crimson in an instant. His bold declarations from back then now sounded like a resounding slap, stinging his own face. I was deceived by her. He pleaded urgently. Wan, it's always been you I love. Just then, a sharp, shrill woman's voice cut through from not far away. Luja, you bastard, how dare you sneak off to see this homewrecker behind my back? I turned toward the voice. Channing was storming over, her face caked in heavy makeup and wearing a cheap dress that couldn't hide her brassy, streetwise aura. She grabbed Luja by the ear and launched into a torrent of abuse. Well, look at you, up to your eyeballs in debt. And you still have the nerve to come here and harass your ex-girlfriend. What, you want her to pay off your debts for you? Luja winced in pain from her grip, a mix of shame and fury on his face. Let go of me, you crazy woman. I'm crazy. I had an abortion for you. And now you call me crazy, Channing said, suddenly turning to me with venom in her eyes. It's all your fault, Suwon, you homewrecker. If it weren't for you, Asia would have been a great scientist by now. And we'd be living the good life. She lunged forward, claws bared and ready to pounce. Li Wei, standing beside me, stepped forward in a flash, shielding me like a hawk protecting its young. What do you think you're doing? This is a national key laboratory, not a marketplace for your tantrums. Towering at over 6 feet, Li Wei's imposing presence made Channing immediately recoil 2 steps in fright. Watching this farce unfold before me, Luja on his knees and Channing throwing a tantrum, I was suddenly overcome with utter exhaustion. I stepped around them and walked straight into the lab. From behind me came Luja's desperate, ragged cry. Suwon, don't go. You can't do this to me. Give me back my talent. Give me back my life. I didn't look back. Luja, you have no one to blame but yourself for the ruin of your own life. That has nothing to do with me. After that whole farce, Luja and Channing vanished completely from my world, according to the lab security guard. After they were kicked out that day, they lingered and made a scene at the entrance for a long time. They ended up getting into a fight and were taken away by the police. My life finally settled back into a peaceful rhythm. Within this celestial canopy project, I was in my element. Li Wei made an exception to promote me to lead the core algorithm team. I led a small group Tackling one technical challenge after another, our team's research findings have garnered widespread attention in the international academic community. I've gone from being an unknown nepotism hire to a young scientist of some renown in the field. Dr. Sue, occasionally, in the solitude of a late night, I still think of my former self from a past life, that timid, insecure girl who was accustomed to hiding in Luge's shadow, despite possessing a brilliant mind. The shadows of her childhood and family left her terrified of the spotlight, afraid to become the center of attention. It was Luge's arrival that provided her with a perfect protective shell. She believed that by hiding within this shell, she could safely pursue her dream of scientific research. In her eyes, Luge became her hero, yet she never imagined that this so-called hero, from the very beginning, only intended to use her and steal her light. Professor Wang had a talk with me. He offered me a very sincere apology. Suwan, my eyesight has failed me. Back then, I only saw the superficial excellence in Luge, and overlooked you, this uncut gem. Looking back now, you're miles ahead of him. I just smiled. Professor Wang, that's all in the past. Yeah, it's all in the past. All the hurt and betrayal vanished into thin air with that death. Given a second chance at life, I'm determined to live for myself this time. 1 year later, the Celestial Vault project achieved a breakthrough. Our results presentation was held at the National Convention Center, with major media outlets vying for coverage. As a core member of the project, I stood on the stage at the press conference. Under the spotlight, I looked out at the countless flashing cameras and focused gazes from the audience, yet I felt not a trace of nervousness or fear in my heart. There was only a sense of unprecedented calm and composure. After the press conference concluded, I gave an exclusive interview to a major media outlet. On television, I was dressed in professional attire, answering each of the reporters' technical questions with confidence and composure. The headline read, Celestial Canopied Goddess, Dr. Suwan, China's youngest space information technology expert. I knew that at this very moment, Luge must have seen it too. I had no idea what he must be thinking. Was it jealousy, regret, or sheer unwillingness to accept it? But none of that has anything to do with me anymore. We've long been living in two separate worlds. I thought our entanglement would finally come to an end here. It wasn't until that day that I received a call from an unknown number. On the other end of the line was a man's voice, weak yet urgent. It was Luge. Wan, save her. Ying, she has cancer. Hearing the word cancer, my heart was inevitably pierced with pain. The same illness, the same point in time. History, it seems, has a way of repeating itself, only this time, it was a different person lying on the hospital bed, awaiting judgment. Wan, I'm begging you, you're a famous scientist now, you must have the money, right? Luge's voice was choked with tears, filled with a desperate plea. The doctor said the treatment would cost a fortune. We simply don't have that kind of money. If you'll just save Ying, I'll do anything. I'll be your slave. I'll give you my life. Be my slave. Give me your life. I almost laughed out loud. In my past life, he said the same thing. He knelt before me, begging me to save Chening. My heart softened. I used up all my savings, even drawing on future project funds, to arrange the best hospital and the best doctors for Chening. And what was the result? In return, on the very day Chening was diagnosed, he pulled the plug on my ventilator, because he believed that if I hadn't stood in their way back then, if he and Chening had gone to work at the factory early on, they could have saved enough money, and Chening wouldn't have been diagnosed only at a late stage. He laid all the blame squarely on me. How utterly absurd. Luge, I said calmly, what does her having cancer have to do with me? Silence fell on the other end of the line. Luge probably never expected me to be this cold. Suwan, how can you be so heartless? His voice suddenly turned shrill. That's a human life. Now that you've made it big, have you forgotten all we meant to each other? If it weren't for me back then, would you even be where you are today? I was completely tickled by his sheer audacity. Luge, have you forgotten who's responsible for your current misery? Back then, you gave up the lab opportunity and chose the factory for her. Now that she's sick, you come to me for money. Do you really think the world works that way? He was left speechless, completely at a loss for words. After a long pause, he switched tactics and started playing the victim. Wan, I know I was wrong. For over a year now, my life has been a living hell. I've been hounded by debt collectors, mocked by everyone. I've been living like a dog. Ying, she knows she was wrong too. She curses herself every day, saying she never should have come between us. Just take pity on us. Will you? I listened quietly, my heart completely unmoved. If you knew it would come to this, why did you start it? They chose this path themselves. They should be the ones to taste the bitter fruit of their own actions. All right then, After a moment's thought, I spoke up. On the other end of the line, Lucia immediately held his breath, as if clutching at a final, desperate lifeline. I'm going to transfer some money to you, really, Wan. I knew you were the best, he exclaimed. Overjoyed, however, I shifted my tone. This money isn't for Qinying's medical treatment. This money is to settle all our past grievances, once and for all. Over our 4 years of undergrad and 3 years of grad school, you treated me to 45 meals in the cafeteria and 27 takeout orders, which came to a total of 386 yuan. I'll round it up and send you 3,000. From now on, we're even. After saying that, I hung up the phone without waiting for his response. Then, I opened my banking app and transferred him the 3,000 yuan. Note, here's your severance pay. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. My actions had clearly pushed Lucia over the edge. The next day, the internet was flooded with negative stories about me. Shocking. Celestial goddess turns a blind eye to dying plea. Ex-boyfriend's desperate kneeling plea falls on deaf ears as his white moonlight clings to life. The dark side of research prodigy Dr. Su-wan. Abandoning her critically ill boyfriend, her heart is as cold as a snake's. Exposing Su-wan's rise to the top, she stole her boyfriend's work and climbed to success over the bones of others. In the news, Lucia and Qinying are portrayed as a pair of tragic, star-crossed lovers. It was to pay for Qinying's medical treatment that Lucia painfully gave up on his dream of a career in research, and I was the toxic ex-girlfriend who stole his work and kicked him when he was down. In their interview video, Qinying lay in the hospital bed, pale and barely breathing. Lucia, with red-rimmed eyes, faced the camera and tearfully denounced my crimes. She stole everything from me, my research, my dreams, my life. Ying is on the brink of death. I begged her, for the sake of our past, to save Ying's life. All she gave me was 3,000 yuan, calling it breakup money. How could she be so heartless? Public opinion exploded instantly. Countless netizens, unaware of the truth, flooded my social media and the lab's official accounts, bombarding me with vicious insults and attacks. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. He looks the part, but his heart is as black as coal. A scientist with such rotten character doesn't deserve to work on national projects. Get out of the research community. The lab's phone lines were jammed. Professor Wang and Li Wei came to speak with me under immense pressure, their expressions grave. Su-wan, we believe in you, but the public pressure is overwhelming. The higher-ups have already started asking questions. What do you plan to do? I looked out the window, my expression calm. Professor Wang, Team Leader Li, give me 1 day. I'm going to hold a press conference. Everyone assumed I was going to defend myself. At the press conference, flashbulbs popped incessantly, and a sea of microphones was thrust toward me. Dr. Su, is it true, the online allegations that you stole Mr. Lucia's research findings? Are you truly indifferent to MS Qinying's condition? Some say you're a modern-day Qin Shimi. What's your response to that? I did not answer any of the questions. I simply walked to the front, faced everyone, and gave a deep bow. Then, I turned on the projector. Before answering your questions, I'd like to ask everyone to listen to a recording first. The room fell silent instantly. An audio waveform appeared on the projection screen. Immediately after, a strange yet distinct sound echoed through the venue's speakers. It was the steady, rhythmic beep, beep of a heart monitor. Then came a man's voice, dripping with seething hatred. It's all your fault. I would have married Ying by now if it weren't for you. If I had gone to work at the factory with her, her medical bills would have been covered. After the words, there was a sound of a struggle, followed by the sharp hiss of a ventilator tube being pulled out. Finally, the heart monitor emitted that piercing, continuous tone, the sound that signifies the end of a life. Beep. A deathly silence fell over the room. Everyone was stunned into speechless horror by the sudden, deathly recording. A reporter raised a trembling microphone. What is this? I looked at Lucia's face in the audience, twisted with shock and terror, and slowly began to speak. This is my last testament, to be precise. It is the final audio recording captured by my brain in my previous life. Moments before I died, my final research project before my death was the human brain black box. Its aim was to record the neural signals at the moment of human death and convert them into sound waves and images. It's an honor. I am this project's first, and only, successful subject. My words detonated like a bomb in the conference hall. The room erupted. A past life, a black box for the human brain. Is this a sci-fi movie? The journalists snapped out of their initial shock and began frantically clicking their shutters, as if trying to capture this historic moment. Down in the audience, Lucia's face had turned ashen, and his entire body was trembling uncontrollably. He stared at me, his eyes filled with absolute terror, as if he were looking at a demon that had crawled straight out of hell. "No, impossible, you're lying, you're insane," he screamed, trying to rush onto the stage, but was firmly restrained by the security personnel beside him. I paid no mind to his death throes. I simply continued my statement, calm and composed. "The man on the recording is Mr. Luja, and the victim whose ventilator he disconnected was me. In my past life, he thought his plan was flawless, but he never knew that I, with my very life, had prepared for him a piece of evidence that could never be erased. Now, are there any further questions?" The entire hall fell into a dead silence. The reporters, who had been so aggressive moments before, now stood there like strangled ducks, unable to utter a single word. The truth is 100 times more bizarre, chilling, and shocking than the story they fabricated. This is no longer a simple sex scandal or academic misconduct. This is a murder accusation that transcends life and death. Following the press conference, the police immediately launched an investigation. The recording from the brain's black box became the most crucial and irrefutable piece of evidence. Luja was arrested on the spot. Confronted with this ironclad proof, his psychological defenses completely crumbled. He confessed without reservation to unplugging my life support in a past life and to maliciously slandering me in this one for money and fame. As for Chening, his accomplice, she too faced the full force of the law. They say she fainted on the spot when she learned that Luja had been arrested and that she, too, was facing prison time. Her cancer diagnosis was real, but her future was utterly ruined. It was all over. The dust had settled. Public opinion online has undergone a staggering reversal. I have transformed from a vicious, scheming woman into a phoenix-like goddess of vengeance, reborn from the ashes. My human brain black box theory has stunned the entire scientific community, opening a brand new door for research in neuroscience and information science. Countless honors, awards, and collaboration offers have come pouring in like a blizzard. I stood before the lab's massive floor-to-ceiling window, gazing out at the brilliant tapestry of stars. Levi walked over and stood beside me, handing me a cup of hot coffee. "It's all over," he said. I gave a slight nod and took a gentle sip of the coffee. "Yes, it's all over. The grudges from my past life have been settled. The path in this life is now on the right track. I am no longer anyone's shadow, nor anyone's appendage. I am who I am. It's Sue Wan, the true genius who once had her life stolen, and has now taken it back with her own hands." A shooting star streaks across the night sky. I made a wish upon it. In this lifetime, I wish for a life free of Luja, filled only with the stars and the sea. That's all for today's story. If you've listened this far, please leave a comment saying happy every day. Wei Guang wishes you all happiness every single day.